Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, we will be going over the getting started basics when using Structure Sensor 3. My name is Ken Kwan, and I'm joined here today as well with my colleague, Evan Klemp, and we are part of the support team here at Structure.
Thanks, Ken, and hi, everybody. So the purpose of today's webinar is to teach you how to set yourself up to make your first successful scan with Structure Sensor 3. We're going to cover things like what's included in your Structure Sensor 3 box, how to set up the bracket with your sensor, getting your iPad set up, downloading the right apps, calibration, and more. Then at the end, we'll have some time for a Q&A where we'll be able to help with any relevant questions that you might have. So if that all sounds good, then let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so first the unboxing. We're going to get started with the unboxing of your sensor. Here's a quick video showing everything that comes inside your sensor box. The gift box includes a Structure Sensor 3, USB charging cable, M1.6 screws, magnetic screwdriver, and the quick start guide.
Oh, yeah, great. And next, we're going to go over how to set up your bracket itself. First, to start, there are two types of bracket options available, depending on which iPad model you have. Most iPad models will use a compression bracket, like you can see here on the screen. These brackets are created to attach your sensor snugly to your iPad, whereas the other brackets we have are just for the iPad 9th Gen. And this one you see on your screen is a precision bracket. And these brackets are created with a latch mechanism to attach your sensor to your iPad. Now, one bracket is not better than the other. Rather, it's just depending on which iPad model you are using. So let's take a look at how to actually attach your bracket to your sensor.
The next step is to attach the sensor to the bracket using the provided screws and screwdriver. We recommend loosely threading each screw into its hole before fully tightening them. Alternate tightening each screw a little at a time. This prevents the bracket from shifting and ensures that all the screws are evenly installed. Confirm that the iPad does not have a screen protector or case. Otherwise, the bracket may not fit and you may damage the iPad, sensor, or bracket. Slide the bracket down on both sides of the iPad until the bracket is fully seated at all points. All right, now let's talk about how to set up your iPad for success, including how to properly plug in your sensor into the iPad, best practices, and which apps to download. When plugging the cable into the sensor port, ensure the pin connector side faces downward to match the pins inside the sensor port, which are located at the bottom. Forcing the cable in the port the wrong way will bend the pins and break the sensor. Insert the cable straight into the port without tilting. Angled insertion can bend the pins and loosen the port, potentially causing damage. Some newer brackets have a cable pedestal, which helps secure the cable and reduce stress on the port. Use this pedestal for additional support. If using a bracket without the pedestal, avoid applying pressure on the cable when plugged in. Excessive force can break the port. Always disconnect the cable during transport to prevent any strain or damage to the port. Proper usage ensures the port remains robust and functional. Handle with care to avoid damaging the pins inside the port. Ensure your iPad is running the latest version of iOS. Go to Settings, General, Software Update to check for any updates. For the best experience, download all of the Structure apps from the App Store. The Structure app, where you can update the sensor's firmware, check the depth, color, and infrared streams, view the battery status, and send diagnostics information directly to our CX team. The Calibrator app, which allows you to calibrate the sensor to align with your specific iPad model's cameras. Structure Scanner, which is a sample app ideal for testing the sensor. And Structure Capture. Use this app for easy scanning with Structure Sensor 3. Each purchase of Structure Sensor 3 includes a free 1-year subscription.
Awesome. Now, the last thing you'll want to check before moving forward is your sensor's firmware and whether or not an update is available, which you can do in the Structure app like we just mentioned previously. In general, we tend to send out firmware updates every 2 to 3 months, so the best practice would be to check in the Structure app every other month or so to see if a new firmware update is available. Updating your firmware is super easy in the Structure app, and it's just a click of the button. If you'll find an update is available by clicking the eye icon in the upper right-hand corner of the Structure app, and it'll pull up in the Structure app. This eye icon, like I said, is on the upper right-hand corner, and it'll take you to the About Your Sensor section. If there's a firmware update available, then you'll see a blue button that says Update Firmware, like you can see on the screen. And here's what it looks like in practice, actually.
All right, great. So now that you've got all your hardware and software set up, the last thing that you'll need to do before making your first scan is to calibrate your sensor with your iPad. Before starting, we recommend printing out the indoor calibration target, which you can see on the screen, as this picture is the structure standard for saving robust calibrations to a sensor. It's quick, reliable, and has the proper complexity needed for the scene quality stage of calibration.
We also recommend having an infrared or IR light source, as your sensor will need IR light specifically in order to calibrate properly. If you don't have enough IR light, then you will not be able to calibrate. IR light can come from things like indirect sunlight, a halogen light bulb, an incandescent bulb, or an IR flashlight even.
So with that said, let's just dive into how to calibrate and what that looks like. How to calibrate Structure Sensor 3. The first step is to download the Structure Sensor Calibrator app from the App Store, or make sure that you have the most up-to-date version of the app. When using any apps with the sensor, you want to be sure to open the app first without the sensor connected, and then connect the sensor only when prompted to by the app. This will help prevent any connectivity issues you might run into. Be patient and give the app a few moments to initialize, and you should see the camera view popping up. Now here's an example of a poorly calibrated sensor. As you can see, the depth overlay isn't quite aligned with the object, and when we go to the color view, the color is misaligned as well, so this really looks inaccurate. Here's an example of the same scan, but with a good calibration. So as you can see, the depth overlay does align with the object. Next, we'll go to the color view of the scan, and you can see everything looks normal. Now first, let's do an outdoor calibration. You're going to open the calibrator app and connect your sensor. Once it pulls up, you're just going to click Start Standard Calibration. Now if you have a structure bracket, you can just continue on forward. If you're using a custom bracket, just swipe right and you can enter the values of the bracket there. The sensor is looking for an environment with ambient infrared light, which is why we're doing this outdoors. The infrared and the sunlight should be sufficient enough to make this a smooth process, but if it's too cloudy or dark out, you might not be able to continue. So as you can see, the sunlight meter is filled up. Now the goal here is to find a complex scene that's high in contrast in both scenes. When outdoors, scenes in nature are usually complex enough. You can see how the grass registered really quickly, a high quality scene. The final stage is the refinement, where you can manually drag the depth feeds color overlay to match the physical scene. We have a tutorial here to show you how to do it. Drag the scene right and left until it aligns. Match the color with the physical scene, not the spaces where there is no color. Once you have it done, tap Save Calibration. Calibration state will save to the sensor, and you'll be ready to scan. Now let's start over with an indoor calibration. Much like the outdoor calibration, we're just going to tap Start Calibration once you pull the app up and connect your sensor. So we'll do that here. When indoors, you may find the sunlight meter not filling up due to lack of ambient infrared light, which prohibits you from moving forward with the calibration. Now to fix this, there are a few things that we can do. You can enable indoor mode with the switch in the bottom corner. This will allow your sensor to take in more infrared light and should make calibrating your sensor indoors a bit easier. Another tip is you can use a halogen or incandescent bulb to provide some IR light onto the scene. So here I have a lamp that has a halogen bulb in it. So I'm turning that on, and right away the sunlight meter fills up. I'll turn that off again, and you can see the sunlight meter goes down. So if you have an incandescent or halogen bulb, that will really help with your indoor calibration. You can also use an infrared flashlight to provide some IR light onto your scene. So I'll show you an example. I have an infrared flashlight here in my hand. As you can see, the sunlight meter is down. Now we'll turn on the flashlight, and that meter just fills right up. The next goal is to find a complex, high-contrast scene that appears clearly on both screens, similar to what we did outdoors. Since complex scenes can be harder to find indoors, we've developed an indoor calibration target to simplify the process. This target's inspired by the Jackson Pollock painting 1, number 31, which really captures the necessary complexities for calibration. Download and print the indoor calibration target using the link in the description. Point the cameras at the target and hold them steady until the process moves on to the next step. Final stage is the refinement, where you manually drag the depth feeds color overlay to match the physical scene, just like we did outdoors. You can start with a tutorial to practice on a simulated scene of the table and chairs. Drag the scene left and right until it matches. You want to match the color with the physical scene, not the spaces where there is no color. Now I always suggest going to an open doorway where you can clearly see two defined depths. You have the door that's close to you and the empty space behind it that's far away. And when everything's aligned, you can tap Save Calibration. And once the calibration's saved, you're ready to scan. Thanks for watching, and visit structure.io to get your Structure Sensor 3 now and to learn more. All right, so just to show you another example, here's an example of a scan with a bad calibration to give you an idea of what to expect. So again, the depth overlay isn't directly on top of the object. As you can see, it's slightly to the left, and that will reflect in the final color view as well. So let that load, and you can see that that color view, it's not accurate. You know, the llama toy mesh is not aligned with the color. To show you what that looks like with a good calibration. So now you can see it looks like the depth overlay is directly over the object. And when we go to the color view and that loads, it looks accurate. So that's what we're aiming for here.
Perfect. Thank you, Evan. And with that, you should have everything you need now to make your first successful scan with Structure Sensor 3. But with that, we'll stop now to take any questions that anyone might have. All right, everyone. And just to mention again, like I talked about at the very beginning, that indoor calibration target for calibrating, as well as an IR flashlight example, that one that we recommend if you would like to purchase one, is pinned in the chat itself. So those are two links we provided along with our main support email, where you can email in any questions, or if you need any troubleshooting help. All three of those are pinned to the chat itself. But like we just said, we're happy to take any questions if anyone has any. I didn't see any in the chat so far, so yeah, we'll let anyone either speak up or type them into the chat.
Yeah, I also saw that we had a few late joiners, so you can also email us and we can send you the recording of this meeting if you want to watch the whole thing.
Thank you. So we'll give it just like maybe a minute, Evan, and just to see if anyone thinks of any questions. Otherwise, we're happy to end the webinar early if nobody has any questions. And obviously, like Evan just mentioned, if any follow-up questions happen before, if you have any interest in receiving a copy of the recording of the webinar, please email us at support@structure.io, and we'd be happy to help answer any questions or provide any assistance for you. Let's see. So there was a question. I've done all this successfully, but when I open the Anodyne scan app for feet, it does not capture the object. Okay, so this sounds more like a troubleshooting question. And so to answer at face value, this could really happen for a number of reasons. One of which maybe being some of the software is not up to date. But we'd be happy to help with this troubleshooting question directly with you if you'd like to email us at support@structure.io, and you can just copy this question as well as provide any other relevant details. We'd be happy to continue assisting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always a good rule of thumb. First, make sure you have everything up to date. Make sure your iPad, iOS is up to date, and any apps you're using is up to date as well. The email is also in the chat. It's support@structure.io. Thank you, Ken.
No problem.
Yeah, that way.
Give it another. Oh, go ahead, Evan. Sorry.
I was gonna say, especially with third-party apps, sometimes it's best to just reach out to us directly. That way, we can look into that with you by getting screen recordings, screen captures to see exactly what's going on with the third-party apps.
We can give it another 30 seconds and see if anyone else has any questions that they'd like to ask or put in the chat.
We got a new joiner. Hi there, Merlin. We're kind of wrapping up now, but we did record this webinar. So if you reach out to us at email, that email is support@structure.io, which should be pinned in the chat. Yeah, we can definitely send you a recording.
Okay, that'll work. Thanks, Evan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was double booked, and I thought, oh, maybe I can sneak in right before they do the calibration stuff. That would be great. But honestly, I will happily watch the video. This would be fantastic.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And we're actually in a question and answer portion right now. So obviously missed the webinar, but if you have any questions while we're on the line, we're happy to answer any questions.
No, I've been working with Hannah on a bunch of stuff, and she's been fantastic to work with. I just thought I would jump in here because I've been buying up a bunch of these things lately, and just kind of watch. I've got one of my technicians that works on these, and everything goes well. But it's always good to have a manager kind of know what's going on as well.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll be happy to send you the recording right after this then.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. With that, then, if it doesn't look like any other questions were posted to the chat, so we'll go ahead and give everyone 10 minutes back. Once again, just reiterating for anyone who just joined or didn't hear, we're going to have the recording available after this call of the webinar. So please email us at support@structure.io. And also, we're going to be doing this webinar again next month. So look out for our correspondence on when that next webinar is going to be. It's going to be the same webinar. We'll go ahead and send you an email as well as calendar invites, just like we did this time, for anyone who's interested in joining or may not have been able to make it this time.
Sounds great.
So with that, thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Kenneth. Thanks, Evan.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Thank you.